virtual lesson. I'm Ayuka.
I'm Aisha.
I'm Safwa.
And I'm Warren.
And we are the STEMY Scientific Method team. So, what is STEMY? STEMY is an entirely student-run nonprofit organization in Louisville, Kentucky, and we aim to break gender, racial, and socioeconomic barriers in STEM education. And today we want to teach you guys about the steps of the scientific method along with an experiment.
Hello. Like many of you, I have lots of time on my hands, and today I decided to do a science experiment. I've always wanted to test to see which kind of liquid would allow me to fit the most droplets on the surface of a penny. I have my pennies, I have water, and I have salt water, but I don't know what to do next.
So the scientific method is a way for scientists to study and learn things. There are 5 steps to it: the question, hypothesis, experiment, data, and conclusion. And we'll be going through each of these steps.
That's great. The scientific method will really help me complete my experiment. So do I just jump into forming my question?
Well, first you need to know your variables. Have you ever noticed that different games take different amounts of time? For example, rock, paper, scissors takes a few seconds to play, Uno takes a little longer, and Monopoly can take hours. Well, you could say that different types of games and playing time are 2 different variables that you can use.
That's right. Before you get started with your question hypothesis, you have to consider your variables. So a variable is something that changes. The independent variable is something that you change in the experiment. You control how it is affected. And the dependent variable is something that you measure. It is what the independent variable changes and how it is affected.
Oh, I see. Identifying the variables is really important before jumping straight into the question. The thing I'm going to be changing is the liquid type from water to salt water. So I guess that makes it my independent variable. The thing I'm going to be measuring is the number of droplets on the surface of the penny. So that'll make it my dependent variable. Can I jump into the question now?
Yes, let's jump in. So a scientific question is the big question that your experiment answers. It goes in the format, what is the effect of the independent variable on the dependent variable? So now let's look at examples of good and bad scientific questions. So is how are you today a good scientific question? No, it's not. What about what is the effect of water amount on the growth of lima bean plants? Yes, that's a good question because it follows our format.
Now that we have found our variables, we can move on to the question. So the form that we need to use to find our question is what is the effect of the independent variable on the dependent variable. So as we just found, our independent variable was liquid type, salt water or normal water. And our dependent variable was the number of droplets on the surface of the penny. So our question would be what is the effect of the liquid type on the number of droplets that can fit on the surface of the penny?
The next step of the scientific method is the hypothesis. A hypothesis is another word for a prediction. This is the part of the scientific method where you write down what you think will happen in your experiment. And when forming our hypotheses, us scientists like to use a special format called the if-then format. And the if-then format looks like this. If I change the independent variable in this way, in which you describe how you will change it, then the dependent variable will, and that's when you make your prediction about what you think will happen. For example, if I change the board game, which is the independent variable, to Monopoly, the way you're going to change it, then the playing time, the dependent variable, will increase, which is my prediction in this experiment. Or for a more scientific example, if the plants are watered, then the plant height will increase.
Hi, my name's Aisha and I have my pennies and my different types of liquid. And I'm ready to do the penny droplet experiment, but first I need to hypothesize or predict what will happen. I hypothesize that if I use regular water to drop onto the pennies, then the most drops of water will be held.
Now that we have our question and hypothesis, we can finally get to doing the experiment. So first, you need to come up with all the materials that you need for your experiment, including what you're going to use to measure independent and dependent variables. And then you can get to writing your procedures. The procedures are like a recipe. It's a step-by-step list that you will follow during your experiment. And there are lots of reasons why it's important for you to have procedures. One is that you can stay organized while doing your experiment. If you have a list, then you know what part you're on and you don't miss anything in your experiment. Another reason is so that you can repeat your experiment later, or so that other people can also repeat your experiment. One of the most important parts of the procedures is to have multiple trials. If you have multiple trials, then that's how you know your data is reliable. Because if you can do the same thing multiple times and come up with the same data, then you know it's true.
Alright, so I have my question and hypothesis, and now I'm going to start on my experiment. So I have my cup of water, cup of salt water, a penny, and a paper towel to catch any water that spills. And ideally, we do want to use a pipette or dropper to suck up the liquid from each cup and place the droplets on the surface of the penny, but I know a lot of us don't have access to pipettes or droppers during quarantine at home, so a straw is a perfectly good alternative, and for now, I'm going to be using a bottle with a small opening that I refilled with water. So I'm going to go ahead and start while counting the number of droplets it takes before the water spills over the top. Okay, so I am currently at 45 droplets. Let us keep going. 46, 47, 48, 49. So I got to a total of 63 droplets before the water spilled over the top. I'm gonna write that down so I do not forget. 63. Okay, so I have all the data for the water part of the experiment, so I'm going to go ahead and do the same exact thing, but for salt water. Yay, I'm done! Woohoo! So now for the data analysis section. Data is a collection of information gathered by observation, questioning, or measurement. So we can use statistics to organize the data. Some of the statistics we can use are mean, median, mode, and range. So for mean, for example, Avery wanted to see what type of paper airplane would fly the farthest. So she used two different designs, design A and design B, and tested them 3 times to see which one flew the furthest. So for the mean, it's also known as the average, and it's found by adding up the numbers in the dataset together and dividing the numbers by the number of numbers. So for design A, if we were to find the mean, we would want to add up all these numbers, so 7 plus 4 plus 4, which is 15. And then we want to divide by the number of numbers. So 15 divided by 3, because there are 3 numbers here, and you get the answer of 5. So 5 is the mean for design A. Then for median, the median is the number in the middle of the data set. And in order to find it, you put all the numbers in order from least to greatest and find the middle number. Even if there is an even number in the data points, you would need to pick between the 2 middle numbers, add them together, and divide them by 2. So kind of how you got the mean. So let's find the mean of design A. So for design A, we put the numbers in order. So 7, 4, 4, or if you want to do least to greatest, that works as well, 4, 4, 7, and you find the middle number, which is 4. And finally, the mode is the number that appears the most. So basically, you just find the most repeated number, and that's your mode. So for design A, the number that repeats the most, there are 2 4s here, so 4 is the mode of design A. And also range. The range is the difference between the lowest number and the highest number. And in order to find it, you subtract the lowest number from the highest number. So for design A, you find the highest number, which is 7, the lowest number, which is 4, and you subtract them. So 7 minus 4 is 3, and 3 is your range. So now it's your turn. So you can find the mean, median, mode, and range of design B on your handout by pausing this video at each slide and finding the statistics on your own.
So now that we've completed the experiment, we need to analyze the results to come up with a conclusion. So here are the results of our experiment. First, we're going to find the mean. In order to do that, we're going to add the 3 values that we found, 63 plus 77 plus 57, which equals 197, and then we're going to divide it by the number of values we have, which are 3. That equals 66. So that is our mean. For the median, we need to order our values from least to greatest, which is 57, 63, and 77. So then we find the value in the middle. That is 63. For the mode, we need to find which value comes up most often. None of the values repeat, so we have no mode. For the range, we need to subtract the largest value and the smallest value. That would be 77 minus 57. So our range is 20. And now we repeat the process for the second set of values, and that is the salt water. So for the salt water, our mean is 43, our median is 42, we have no mode, and the range is 9. After analyzing the results, we're going to create a bar graph to allow other people to easily understand the results. We're going to compare the means of the salt water and the water. So first, to create the bar graph, we have to label the x and y axes. The x-axis, which is the bottom, will be labeled with the independent variable, which is the type of liquid, and the y-axis will be labeled with the dependent variable, which is the number of droplets that will fit on the penny. Then we are going to create the bars for the salt water and the water. The water will go up to 66 because that is the mean of the water, and the salt water will go up to 43.
So now we're on to the last step of the scientific method, the conclusion. So your conclusion should be a little paragraph that describes your experiment and what you found. Be sure to include the purpose of the project, what you found and what you discovered, your hypothesis, any experimental errors that you might have done, and any applications of your experiment. So the purpose of your experiment answers why you decided to conduct the project. It could be, for example, that I noticed that my plants grow well with water, and I was wondering what other liquids could help my plants grow. So I decided to see if watering my plants with soda and orange juice could help my plants grow taller from watering them with water. Then I would need to state my major findings. For example, let's say that I found orange juice works best to grow my plants. Then I would need to say my hypothesis. So say, for example, I hypothesized that soda would make my plants grow the biggest, but that was not supported, which is okay because then I can go back and see what I could have done wrong and how I could fix it. And you also need to talk about any experimental errors that could have occurred. For example, I could have measured the plant height wrong. And then you talk about any real-world or future applications of your research. So the way to do this is to basically just go online and see what you can find about your project and try to explain that in scientific terms.
So we are on the last step of the scientific method, the conclusion. So I'm going to walk through what a conclusion for this experiment would look like. So first, the purpose of the project. Well, the purpose of this project was to see if liquid type would affect the number of droplets that would fit on the surface of a penny. And the major finding was that water was a better fit than salt water because water had an average of 66 droplets, whereas salt water had an average of 43 droplets that fit on the penny. And actually this supports our hypothesis because we did predict that water would be better than salt water. And as for experimental error, it might have occurred in the form of systematic error or random error. Human error. So systematic error could have been that the place that I did my project was just not as flat as it could have been. So it might have toppled the penny or toppled the water a little bit. And the human error could have been that I just miscounted the number of droplets that fit on the penny, and that could have impacted the numbers and the results. So for real life and future applications, you might learn in biology class about the many amazing qualities of water, such as surface tension, cohesion, and adhesion. So this project actually demonstrates all of those perfectly, because as we conducted the project, the water actually stuck to the penny, and that demonstrates adhesion, which refers to the tendency for water to be attracted to other substances and stick to them. And also the water molecules stuck to each other, and that's the main reason the water didn't spill off the penny in the first place. So that refers to cohesion, which is the tendency for water molecules to be attracted to other water molecules. And that pretty much wraps up the conclusion. So that means we are done with all the steps of the scientific method and we have successfully finished this project.
I hope you guys try the saltwater and penny droplet experiment at home. Thank you for watching, and I hope you guys are staying curious. Bye!
Bye!